So you'll see here some behavior intervention package. You'll have all the antecedent strategies. Again, these are all those intensive supports after we've identified those conditions that frequently bring on the problem behavior. You're going to see the skill acquisition component, right? This is where we're teaching to those replacement behaviors. This is after we've identified, based on the function, based on the antecedents, now we're able to identify and tie in specifically those skill deficits that are associated to that problem behavior. Very intensive teaching and a different type of teaching from teachers. This is when we're doing, and especially not pleasant, I'll be honest there, especially when you're teaching the tolerance skill training, it's not fun. But man, when you start seeing the progress, and I'm sorry, but I love contacting reinforcement too. If I'm applying that amount of effort and that amount of support to someone and I start seeing that progress, I start seeing the decrease in that problem behavior, but then the acquisition of the replacement behavior go up, that makes me feel really good. And guess who's also feeling really good? The child, right? And so is everybody else in their environment that they contact. And then, of course, we do need to target the severe problem behavior. That's part of the comprehensive package, right? We need to reduce that, but not without all of these components. That should be ideal. You should have your antecedent interventions tied in. You should have your replacement behaviors identified that are specific to the function. And then again, the reduction procedures that you're going to have and utilize for the problem behavior. Whoops. No quick fix, especially when you're working with older individuals. And then with you all in the child welfare system, there's a lot of trauma with those individuals. So you have to be very sensitive to also where they are too, and that's a lot more challenging with that. But you can still implement a lot of these behavioral supports in a positive way that they're getting those supports to be successful. Some considerations here before removing the maintaining reinforcer for the problem behavior, and then considerations for the skill instruction on the replacement behavior. So one of the things here, you're going to, especially with the replacement behaviors, you're going to select replacement behaviors that the individual is capable of performing. Replacement behavior should only require equal or less effort than the problem behavior. That's what I spoke to about. It needs to be just as easy, if not easier, than them engaging in their problem behavior, whatever that replacement behavior is going to be. That's what we call functional equivalency. Try to use the same reinforcer. Remember, we're matching it to their function. So if they're engaging in an escape function, then the replacement behaviors will also give them that same contact, that same reinforcement, right? If they are engaging if their problem behavior results in negative reinforcement, then I'm going to make sure that the replacement behaviors give them that same contact of reinforcement, right? If they want the removal of tasks to take place in their environment, well, I don't want them to default to their problem behavior to get that to happen. Give me a functional communication response, and you'll still be able to access that same level of reinforcement, but with an alternative behavior that's appropriate. I'll give that to you, and then we'll work on, obviously increasing the complexity of how he can tolerate the presentation of tasks. You're going to reinforce replacement behaviors continuously. So again, like I said, like driving a manual transmission, you're shifting your gears, because the way that you apply reinforcement for the skill acquisition phase of those replacement behaviors is going to be different than how you're controlling and maintaining or eliminating the reinforcement in the placement of those problem behaviors. I'm running short on time. And again, we spoke to this. It's a lot of change on our part, and this is hard. I think this is especially hard for some parents, and I know it's a lot of work to be a parent, but it's even more work when you have a child that engages in very severe, challenging behavior. But it's not going to get better by hoping or lighting candles or carrying a rabbit's foot in my pocket. It requires a substantial amount of work in the environment for those changes to occur. And unfortunately, if the people in that environment, in that person's environment, aren't willing to make those changes, then those improvements have very little likelihood of occurring. So crisis behaviors, I've included this. It doesn't sound like many of you contact that very often, or at least not as often as I do. But this is, like I said, those very serious situations in which you're safe, there's imminent threats to your safety or theirs. I mean, these are those individuals that are trying to run across very busy intersections. They're lifting 80-pound desks, to throw towards you, chairs being thrown at you, or like I said with my sweetheart, dragging me, not one fist, two-fisted hair pulled across at least 6, 8 feet. I mean, you're talking at least 5'8", 5'9". So, I mean, so I included some of this information on how to respond, because this is when obviously our supports for that individual needs to be the most intense and positive. This is where we're not punitive at all. Even if there's been contact made, even if he struck me or pulled my hair or bit me, it's very imperative. I know it's hard, but how we control ourselves in those situations. Yeah, the individuals that I work with, just so you all know, let me just give you a good depiction. They could all easily meet the profile for state school or juvenile facility. Very, very intense. Several of them, even from my environment, have already been arrested. Several of them live in group homes already because they've exhausted their natural environments and their home environment because of the severity of their physical aggression. And when they're tall and big individuals, that's why I'm saying I get the crazy looks of like, you all need to leave. Like, no, miss, he's gonna, I know. I need to see and assess him in his natural environment so that I know how to be effective when I provide him his supports. I'm okay. So it's something when you go in, and I mean, like I'm saying, I'm in flats, I'm in clothes that I can move in, my hair's in a ponytail, but yeah, it's tough to go into a situation when I'm working with someone who has an incredible amount of strength, agility, athleticism, and they're 6 foot, 180 pounds. So, I mean, it is something, but that's why it's also very critical with how we respond in those crisis situations. So I'm giving you some crisis behavior safety habits, how to respond, how you maintain and control yourself. We're definitely not telling them to calm down. That's not very effective. But if you find any research that says that is, send it my way. But again, even the categories of behavior, sometimes I think a lot of individuals get really caught up in this. When for us, that's pretty minor. These are the ones that are concerning. Mind you, those can be disruptive to a learning environment. They can be disruptive to a shelter environment or a day hab environment. Yes, they can, but those are pretty easy to target. We can work on those. These are going to involve a lot of intensive supports. And again, too, very accurate analysis of those problem behaviors so that we can just tie in and utilize those interventions that are specific and only those that are necessary to get those behaviors under control and see the increase in those replacement behaviors. Again, just how to approach, how to respond when you're working with those problem behaviors, but even how to respond if you're able to assess quickly that the problem behavior is a function, has an escape function, or if the crisis behavior has an attention or tangible function, how you respond to the individual. Because again, those supports, those interventions, even in crisis, need to match the student and where their motivation is for their problem behavior. How to apply differential reinforcement of incompatible behaviors, right? This is with the individual who's engaging in crisis. And then how to utilize high probability behavior approaches with that individual. I'm gonna have to close up here. Can't get into much detail. Just so you all know, my little CB, that's just short for challenging behaviors, right? So like real quick, the example I give there, if the individual is spitting, I'm gonna use a DRI for asking him to sing. And I may just say, hey, why don't you just sing with me? And I'll pick some random ridiculous song, because it's hard to sing and spit at the same time. Hard to sing a song with me and curse at me at the same time. Hard to sing a song and try to bite me at the same time. That's why those are, and again, lots of research that supports that these are very effective procedures to utilize. I know sometimes for teachers when we're in those dangerous situations, it's hard to think of that there's even any skills to apply in the face of that, but there are. And you'll see, we behavior analysts, we use behavioral momentum. We use that with simple little instructions. We call those DRIs, start implementing them, right? Stay calm, stay neutral, but start resorting to applying this skill. And again, it's skill acquisition on your part, right? Because even some of the staff would tell me, how do you just make it seem so easy? And I'm like, when you're getting your hair pulled and getting hit in the face over 10 years, you learn very quickly to acquire this skill. You're naturally, the environment, and especially with the presence of someone who's engaging in severe challenging behavior, they create the motivation on your part to get that skill up. Otherwise, the hair pulling, the biting, the kicking, the hitting is going to keep taking place. High probability behaviors, right? I'm going to place simple instructions, and this is sometimes even instructions that don't even relate to the problem behavior because I want him to come back to me, right? Who's that picture on that? Who's that on your shirt? Pokemon. Really? Which one is that one? Dragon Bat? Is that Pokemon? Right? And they'll tell me, I'll even use those simple, high probability behaviors to get them back. What's your name? John. How old are you? 12? I didn't know that. I thought you were 10. Wow. You're a big boy. You know, so I'm going to use all those things to try to get them to come back to me, right? Even with every response that I get with the simple questions, right? I'm regaining instructional control. Slowly, I'll start getting them, I need you to walk with me. Let's go to this other room. And they start walking with me. I like that you're walking with me, right? They may even still be cursing at me, and that's okay. They're walking with me, right? Don't lose sight, okay, when we're trying to regain instructional control and that you're utilizing these kinds of skills or methods to get them back. So again, just some other points for crisis behavior intervention. And fortunately, most of you don't encounter that too much. But just things to keep in mind when you're working, like, and I'm talking like those serious crises. You know, the chairs are being flown, or there's two individuals engaged in a physical altercation with each other. This is how you respond, right? Slowly, I think we'll see a shift in the school setting, how that we don't apply punitive approaches in crisis, not effective. And again, some benefits of when we're utilizing comprehensive behavior interventions, right? We want to improve the academic environment. We want to increase the academic engagement. We want to decrease problem behavior. And we want to promote appropriate behavior in a positive and proactive way. So the proactive, that's what's connected again to those antecedent interventions. You're providing all of those intensive supports based on the analysis of what the frequent antecedent conditions that bring on the problem behavior, right? We're not going to just wait for them to start showing that skill. No, that's our responsibility to do, to teach them.